What's up, everyone? It's Grey Fiction here. Today, I want to talk about another character that I have not shown as much spotlight as I should have for, especially being that I released her story this year. It's called Blood and Wrath. The main character is Vlatka Dracul. She has become one of my favorite characters because she's completely different than pretty much all the main characters I've written so far, because she was my attempt of writing a character that did not look like me, did not feel as if it was a self-insert, because if I'm being honest, the character John, he was a self-insert. Like, he looked exactly like how I looked when I first started writing him. And my current project, called The Black Heart, where the main character's name is CJ, he's kind of a self-insert of me today. So Vlatka was my attempt of like, hey, I want to challenge myself, see if I'm a better writer than just constantly putting in a self-insert. And that's what I did. And I feel as if I somewhat accomplished, well, not even somewhat, I think I did accomplish that. But in this story, Blood and Wrath, Vlatka Dracul, she is basically a fallen princess who, her story is all about loss, grief, and despair. She is pretty much, her story begins kind of where, like, you find out that her father was betrayed and he was killed. She was ran out of the country, out of her country, with the help of a group of people that had pretty much traveled there in search for a home. And they welcomed her into their community and kind of treated her like family. And she fell in love with one of those people. And he also was eventually robbed from her. And the culture that she pretty much came to love, that was taken from her as well, due to another person betraying her lover. So I wanted to convey that pretty much her story is also about the loss of family, because multiple times in this story, she kind of loses what she kind of perceives as family. And that's technically one of the tragic aspects of her story, that I hope when you read it, you kind of see that, and you kind of of course like it, but you feel the emotion that I was trying to implement in there. So anyway, this is technically a dark fantasy story. I tried to make this a fantasy story that's not like crazy fantastical like John's story. Every iteration of John's story there was no real rules of how things worked. Like say if there was a magic system, there was different type of races and they could do all these different crazy things, and you didn't really know how any of it worked or what rules and what things couldn't be done. When I was writing this story, because like I said, at that time I was like 15, so I was just writing what I liked. But in this story, I was trying to write where like the pursuit for power in certain ways, like, if you're pursuing power that's very dangerous, it comes at a cost. The consequence can be your mind, your soul, or the people around you. That is a big aspect in there. And I want to say the power system in this story has to do with life and death, because of course you have vampires and you have spirits within this story, spiritual entities, whatever, play a part in this story. And if I was to give you what inspired this story, it would be Castlevania, the Netflix show. Netflix, because I don't really know much about the games, which eventually I am going to probably try to like take a venture and play the games. But the show, I fell in love with the show, and Vlatka Dracul was kind of inspired by Dracula. And another reason why I wanted to write Vlatka was basically, I was like, what if you have Dracula, but instead of them being a man, it's a woman who also had kind of like a tragic story or whatever. So that's how we got another reason why we got Vlatka. And another inspiration of the show, of the story, is Bleach, the anime, where they kind of deal with hollows and spirits and whatnot. So yeah. So those were the two big inspirations for creating this story. And in this story, I kind of try to challenge myself to do where when you read the dialogue, it might throw you off because I wrote it in a way where like you can tell that what characters have accents, and the accents pretty much I try to keep it consistent throughout the story. Like, okay, this group of people, they talk like this. This group of people, their dialogue is very archaic when they speak. And this group of people, they might have a certain phrase or whatever that you'll constantly see them use. And I think I did somewhat decent on, keeping it there. And you kind of see what I was trying to do, and you kind of like it, and just not think like, oh, this is trash. But yeah, that was a challenge that I tried to implement upon myself. Now, I can be very hard on myself about a lot of things. I'll be the first to admit that. I find a hard time taking pride in the things that I do, but I want to take pride in this story because I feel like to date, it is one of my very most creative and I think well-written stories. An aspect of like, of the world building, the storytelling, the characters, and how they speak. I feel like it just feels like it's very lived in. But maybe that's just me being biased, but you will only know if you check it out. But anyway, to basically sum up the story that I was trying to tell for Vlatka is pretty much this: to try to find a way to let go of what's hurting you so that your loving soul remains, or you cast aside the kind heart into the depths of darkness and plunging yourself into madness, because that may be the only way that you can right the wrongs done to you. That's pretty much the story that I want you as a reader to see when you read the story. And if that is what you get out of that story, then I think I did my job. That's pretty much, but that's my own interpretation. And another thing is the struggle between life and death. That is also another aspect of this story, because there's a great struggle between the dead and the living in this story as well. So if you're interested in that stuff, then just check it out. Well, that's all I got for today. If you stayed the entire video and listened to me ramble and stutter, thank you very much. And, just go ahead and hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for any more updates on any of my projects. Thank you.